Episode 4: The Doctor's Obsession. Dr. Walter Bailey's Beverly Hills clinic sat like a pristine white tomb among the palm trees and manicured lawns. At 3 in the morning, the building was dark, except for a single light in the basement window. Ray Morrison and Victoria Sterling crouched behind a hedge across the street, watching the shadows move within. "He's down there," Victoria whispered, in what he calls his preservation room. Ray checked his 38 one final time. "How do you know about this place?" "Elizabeth brought me here once. She wanted someone to know where she was going, in case she didn't come back." Victoria's voice carried the weight of survivor's guilt. "I should have stopped her. You couldn't have known, couldn't I? She told me he made her dress like his dead daughter. Made her call him Daddy. Any sane person would have called the police immediately." Ray studied the building's layout. Single story, but the basement extended deep underground. Multiple exits, probably alarmed. They'd need to be smart about this. What's the basement layout? Operating theater in the center. Storage rooms on the sides. And then there's Margaret's room. Margaret's room? Victoria's expression darkened. "You'll see." They moved across the street, like ghosts, keeping to the shadows between streetlights. The clinic's front door was locked, but Victoria produced a key from her purse. "Elizabeth made a copy," she explained. She was planning to bring everything to the police after she gathered more evidence. The interior was sterile, professional. Marble floors, expensive artwork, leather furniture. That spoke of wealth and respectability. But beneath the facade of medical legitimacy, Ray could smell something else. Fear, pain, death masked by disinfectant. The basement stairs were carpeted to muffle sound. As they descended, the clinical white walls gave way to something more sinister. The temperature dropped noticeably, and the air grew thick, with the scent of formaldehyde. At the bottom of the stairs, Ray could hear Drive Bailey's voice echoing from the main room. But he wasn't alone. He was talking to someone, his tone gentle, paternal. "Margaret, my darling, you look so beautiful tonight. Just like you did before the accident. Before they took you away from me." Ray and Victoria exchanged glances. Through a crack in the door, they could see into the main room. Dr. Bailey stood with his back to them, but they could see he was addressing someone seated in a chair. Someone who wasn't moving. "I know you've been lonely, sweetheart. But Daddy's found you some new friends. Pretty girls, just like you wanted. They're sleeping now, but they'll wake up soon. And then you can all play together." Ray's blood ran cold as he realized what they were seeing. Dr. Bailey wasn't talking to a living person. He was talking to a corpse. A perfectly preserved corpse dressed in a white dress, sitting in a wheelchair like some macabre doll. Victoria grabbed Ray's arm. "That's her," she whispered. "That's Margaret. She's been dead for 3 years, but he's been preserving her body." The other girls. He's been trying to create companions for her. The full horror of Dr. Bailey's obsession became clear. The systematic murders, the precise surgical techniques, the theatrical displays. He wasn't just killing these women. He was turning them into a grotesque collection, preserving their beauty in death to keep his daughter company in her eternal slumber. Ray began to push the door open, but Victoria stopped him. "Wait, look." In the shadows around the room, Ray could make out other figures. 6 young women, all positioned in chairs around Margaret, like guests at some hellish tea party. All perfectly preserved, all dressed in clothes from the 1940s. All with the same dark hair and pale skin as Elizabeth Short. "My God," Ray breathed. "He's been doing this for years," Victoria said. Elizabeth found out that Margaret wasn't his daughter at all. She was his first victim, a young actress who came to him for treatment in 1944. When she tried to leave, he killed her and convinced himself she was the daughter he'd lost in childhood. Every girl since then has been an attempt to create the perfect family for his Margaret. Dr. Bailey turned, and Ray got his first clear look at the man. He was impeccably dressed despite the late hour. His white hair perfectly styled, his hands steady as a surgeon's. but his eyes held the glassy stare of complete madness. "Margaret, dear, I think we have visitors," Bailey said conversationally. "Why don't you invite them in?" Ray kicked the door open and stepped into the room, gun drawn. "Dr. Walter Bailey, you're under arrest for the murder of Elizabeth Short and multiple other victims." Bailey smiled, the expression of a man who'd lost all connection to reality. "Detective Morrison, I presume? Sarah told me so much about you before her unfortunate accident. And Miss Sterling, how lovely to see you again. Margaret has been asking about you." "It's over, Bailey. We have the evidence. The recordings, the photographs, the medical files. The whole world is going to know what you've done here." "What I've done?" Bailey laughed, the sound echoing off the basement walls. "I've preserved beauty, detective. I've created art. These girls were nothing when they came to me. Desperate, lonely, forgotten. I've given them purpose, made them part of something eternal." Victoria stepped forward, her voice shaking with rage. "You murdered them. You're a sick, twisted killer who destroyed innocent lives to feed your own delusions." "Delusions?" Bailey's composure cracked slightly. "Margaret is my daughter. She needs companions, playmates. I've simply provided what she requires." Ray moved closer, keeping his gun trained on the doctor. "Margaret Bailey died in a car accident when she was 7 years old. 30 years ago. That woman in the wheelchair is Patricia Morrison, an actress who disappeared in 1944. You killed her and convinced yourself she was your daughter." "No." Bailey's voice rose to a shout. "You're lying. Margaret is my daughter. She's always been my daughter. The real Margaret is buried in Forest Lawn Cemetery," Victoria continued. "We checked the records. You've been living a fantasy, murdering innocent women to maintain your delusion." Bailey's carefully controlled facade finally shattered. They weren't innocent. They were whores, all of them. Coming to Hollywood, selling themselves for parts in movies. They deserved to die, but I made them beautiful, gave them purpose. I made them perfect. Ray saw Bailey's hand moving toward a surgical tray, lined with scalpels and bone saws. "Don't move, doctor." But Bailey was beyond reason now. He grabbed a scalpel and lunged forward, his face twisted with rage. "You won't take Margaret away from me. I won't let you destroy my family." Ray fired once. The bullet caught Bailey in the chest, spinning him around. He collapsed against Margaret's wheelchair, his blood staining her white dress. With his final breath, he reached up and touched the corpse's face. "I'm sorry, Margaret. Daddy failed you." In the silence that followed, Ray and Victoria stood among the preserved corpses, the full weight of what they'd discovered settling over them like a shroud. 7 young women, including Elizabeth Short, had died to feed one man's delusional obsession with creating the perfect family. "It's over," Victoria said quietly. "No," Ray replied, looking at the appointment book they'd recovered from Sarah Chen. "This is just the beginning. These names, the people who covered for him, the corruption that allowed this to happen. There's still work to do." Outside, dawn was breaking over Los Angeles. The city of dreams was waking to news of one of its most horrific secrets finally exposed. Dr. Walter Bailey was dead, but the network of power and corruption that had enabled his crimes still existed. As Ray called for backup and the coroner, he knew that justice for Elizabeth Short and the other victims would require more than just solving their murders. It would require tearing down the system that had allowed those murders to happen in the first place. But for now, the girls could finally rest in peace. To be continued in Episode 5, The Final Reckoning. Authors note this story is inspired by the real Black Dahlia murder case of 1947, one of Los Angeles' most famous unsolved crimes. While based on actual events, the characters and relationships depicted are fictional interpretations created for dramatic purposes.